Well, I disagree. I think are people.
Edit. I just want to let it go. Get busy.
This song never really caught on, did it?
No, it's a Jimmy Buffett classic that is only remembered for Summer Rental. You go to YouTube and you look up Turning Around by Jimmy Buffett. All the comments, it doesn't matter what file you click on, all the comments are talking about John Candy, greatest summer ever, Summer Rental.
Turn it around.
He's Blake. I'm Ronnie. All the good names are taken. Podcast, and we're back for another episode edition. I don't know what we really call them. Of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're continuing our summer series with John Candy in Summer Rental 1985. Blake?
Yeah, you know, for the longest time, Ronnie, Great Outdoors was my favorite Candy movie. Probably my favorite summer movie. But I think over the years doing this show with you that Summer Rental has surpassed it.
That's a good topic for a video, our favorite John Candy movies. But I think Summer Rental's at the top. Summer Rental's number one. And then you can fold in Great Outdoors number two. What movies am I missing besides Great Outdoors and you got Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. So I think Great Outdoors and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, they're constantly flipping at 2 and 3. And a lot of people wouldn't agree with that. But Summer Rental is my favorite John Candy movie. And just like with any of my picks about my favorite movies, it's nostalgia, it's childhood. It's a movie that I watched 1 billion times growing up. And every time I watch it now, it's just like, boom.
You got both of those above Uncle Buck?
I don't like Uncle Buck.
I'm not an Uncle Buck guy either. I like the movie, but as far as where it ranks, it would be toward the bottom.
I may need to go back and watch Uncle Buck again, but I was never a big Uncle Buck guy. My favorite parts of Uncle Buck is him hitting that
messing with Bug,
hitting that clown in the face.
Oh, life lying, 4-flushing sack of shit.
Get back in your mouse and get the hell out of here. Like I said, not a big Uncle Buck fan, but you know, John Candy is a huge part of my childhood. I love him in Stripes. I just love John Candy.
I hate him.
All right.
He's fat.
Okay, Blake, let's get right into it. Summer Rental it's Jack Chester, right? Jack Chester is an air traffic controller. He's burnt out mentally and physically. The movie starts off where you get to see the chaos in his house. Apparently happens every morning with him trying to get breakfast. He's got a wife that loves him to death. He's wanting to drink coffee. She's giving him herbal tea. She's giving him healthy breakfast to eat. The kids are just being kids. They're super annoying throughout the movie. And finally, all of it catches up to him at his job when he thinks he's lost a plane and a fly has landed on the screen. So the principal from summer school gives him a mandatory, is it 6 or 8 weeks off? He gives him a mandatory.
It might be 8. It might be 8, Ronnie, which is nuts.
Yeah, he gives him a mandatory 8 weeks off. So he decides to go to Citrus Cove in Florida, and he's going to spend the entire summer in Florida relaxing. And of course, everything doesn't go the way that he plans it. This movie's...
You talk about like the wife trying to get him to eat health. This really isn't large John Candy in this movie. I mean, he's a big guy, but like he's not going to be massive like you'd become later.
Yeah, I would say this is probably 260, 265-pound John Candy. Wouldn't I be safe in saying that, Blake?
Yeah.
Or do you think heavier?
No, I think about that. That's a good number.
I mean, he still keeps his shirt on. Oh, look, first rule of being fat. You got to take that shirt off when you go to the beach. Otherwise, you're just going to draw more attention. You take the shirt off and you walk around and you own it. I love it. I take my shirt off going into the store to buy a soda. So you have to take that shirt off. He's wearing a gigantic like hockey jersey to the beach. He would have sweated to death before they left there.
Good old JR taught us a valuable lesson. Tan fat is better than pale fat.
He did teach us that. And my feet burn watching him walk across that beach carrying his daughter every time I watch that scene, because you know how hot sand gets. Nick Push knows how hot sand gets. It's hot, and your heels and everything else are just scorching on fire, and he's walking across there. Always wear flip-flops to the beach.
A fun fact about Nick Push, he lives where this movie takes place. Right?
Really?
Yeah, he lives in Citrus Cove. I just realized I almost gave away his location, so I had to change it real quick.
Blake, let's get right to it. What is your first good?
When I was a kid and I would watch this movie, and I would watch Great Outdoors, like I was getting excited about this whole family going on vacation. Like, where are they going? What are they going to get into? Activities they're going to be doing? Where they're going to be staying? It's all exciting. Now, as an adult with kids, when you go on vacation, you kind of relate to the dad character who's kind of dreading it because he knows how much work it is. You know, when they get out of the car and the kids go run and get in the pool or whatever, the dad's going to unload the car for an hour. And as soon as he gets settled in and wants to take a break, now it's time to go do something else, or it's time to start cooking, or it's time to, you know, go here, go there, do this or do that, go to this attraction or whatever. And then, like, at the beach, like, you think the beach is a relaxing time, but it's not, because you got to tote 30 minutes across that hot sand back and forth.
And if you got real young kids, you got to set up a damn tent.
Exactly. Now, like, I don't even know what I would call that, Ronnie. I guess how the movie is so relatable.
Yeah,
would be the best way to say it. Yeah, he still has a good time. He still has fun. It's still his vacation, but he's miserable the first 3 or 4 weeks of this vacation, man. And it's very relatable.
The first thing he does is he gets out there after he unloads everything, and like you said, everybody else goes to do something, and he falls asleep on the lounge thing outside and gets burned up in the sun because he was so tired from carrying everything in. So, like, the first part of the movie, he's crusted up with a sunburn and hurting and having to be lotioned down, which is great because anytime you see his arms, it's very noticeable with like a triangular sunburn that you can see on his arms, because the rest of them are white, and then the red stops at a certain point, and he just looks miserable for the first few days. But I would agree with that 100%. My first good is the story. A guy who's burnt out goes on vacation only to find that he's got to rediscover himself. I mean, that's what this movie is. He's got to rediscover himself, and he's got to I don't want to say introduce, but he almost feels like he's got to prove himself to his family, because he gets there and the first thing him and his son do is they go play volleyball, and he fails at that. And he feels subpar as a father. So he's like, I know one thing I can do well. I can sail. So we're introduced to Rip Torn, who owns a fish stick place, like a seafood restaurant. And it looks like a seafood restaurant / bar that the lowest common denominator are hanging at. And I would love to be at that bar, because they're getting up every night at it, and they're having fun. Okay. And there's a China in there, and you can hang out with that damn China. He'll brush your hair. Edit.
We'll bring him back. We'll bring him up later, Ronnie.
He goes out sailing and he screws up with that. He runs his little rented sailboat into Richard Crenna's gigantic sailboat, and he hurts his knee. So he feels like a failure, and he has to, like, retake his manhood. And that's what he does. The story, you're introduced to Richard Crenna, who's the big shit in town. And right away, they get off on the wrong foot with each other, because Richard Crenna takes the last table after they've been waiting in line for like 3 hours. And we get that great scene where Richard Crenna goes, "Oh, this is your table."
Is this your tie? Nope. Is this your shirt? Is this your belt? Are these your shorts? Tut, 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 tut.
Okay. I guess this is your wife? Are these your friends? Are these your pants?
Nope.
Are these your shorts?
Not.
You renters come into town every year and you think you run the place.
You don't. You don't.
You think no big deal. He just has to avoid that jerk, right? No. The jerk ends up owning the property where Jack Chester and his family are spending the summer. So as soon as he goes to pay him rent, he tells him to get the hell out. So he makes a bet with him. If I beat you at the regatta, I get to stay here with my family rent free for the entire summer. And if I don't, I'm going to give you the rent check for the whole summer, and we're going to get the hell out of here. And now we have something to strive for. And they fix up Rip Torn's boat. They sail. It's a great ending. I mean, the story is fantastic. It's simple and it works and it's relatable, like you said, to dads and people that love to go on vacation.
And that'll lead to my second good is the character. They find a way to make you care about all the characters. Usually in a movie like this, you don't care about the wife, you don't care about the kid, care about any of the side. I mean, I care about all of them. I care about the family and how they view their dad. I definitely care about John Candy and how he feels like a failure as a father and a husband. Nothing he ever does is good enough, or even though it is good enough, it's just in his mind, it's not good enough. I care about Richard Crenna, who, by the way, super underrated. Ronnie,
Yes.
why wasn't he in everything? I mean, after watching this and Rambo, I mean, why wasn't this guy in everything?
I'm sure he was in a bunch of stuff. We just haven't seen very many movies.
Next video, top 5 movies Richard Crenna should have been in. Okay. Remember that.
Should have been in?
That he should have been in.
He should have been Dutch and Predator.
Should he have been in Die Hard? Should he have been outside on the CB in Die Hard, Ronnie? Or is that too much like Rambo?
Just like Rambo.
Okay, and I care about Rip Torn, which I'm a huge Rip Torn guy. I love Rip Torn. I loved him in Larry Sanders Show. I loved him in Dodgeball. I loved him in Freddy Got Fingered. F you daddy, F you daddy, F you daddy, F you daddy. So yeah, the characters in this, they're all unique. They all play their role perfectly. And I don't think anyone is cast badly in this movie.
I would agree. And that was my second good as well, was the characters. From Jack Chester to his wife, Sandy, to the kids, to, the next door neighbors that are super goofy. There's tons of stereotypical characters throughout this movie, and none of them feel stupid. Next door neighbor is always out there working with power tools. But guess what? Later on in the movie, they find a way to implement that character to be able to help them when they need a bunch of pieces of wood cut when they're fixing up the sailboat.
Same thing with his wife. Go ahead.
Yeah, the wife has just had a breast, what do you call it? Breast implant surgery.
Yeah.
And everybody that walks by, she wants them to touch them. And at the end of it, she's getting the judges to touch them that are judging the race.
I ain't got $20.
Just like Roadhouse. John Larroquette shows up, and we'll talk about him in just a second. Him and his son. Like you said, Richard Crenna, even though he's a jerk, he is a very entertaining character in this movie. The house in itself is a character because it's a piece of crap, and the house they end up staying at, we didn't even talk about the first house they make it to.
That's my next part, Ronnie. That's my next good. The bits, the comedy bits that we get. So they get to this location. They pull in. They're at 15 Beach Lane. Say beautiful house with a beautiful view. He spends hours. He's like, nope. She's like, hey, just come in and go to bed. He's like, no, if I get it all unpacked tonight, don't have to do nothing else for the next 2 months. So they stay there, I believe, that night. I think they get a night in. Right, Ronnie? And the next day and then in the next day, someone is breaking in.
No, my bad. That night, somebody breaks in.
And turns out it's the owners of the home. And he's
I don't know how many damn owners of this house there are.
But here you go, buddy. 14 Beach Lane, 2 months.
No, Beach Road. Yeah. This is 415 Beach Lane.
The daughter's like, Daddy, I wet the bed. Oh, sweetie, no, you didn't. You wet their bed. He tears the damn bag of dog food up, spills it all over the floor. So little bits like that. And then we get to the next place, which is a complete shithole. You got people steadily walking by the community sidewalk right next to it, looking in the window while they're eating. He goes out to mess with the hot neighbor who just got a boob job. When he comes back, there's 500 people in his house cooking his food, laying on his bed.
That's probably the best scene. One of the best scenes in the movie is when he comes back over there on his crutches and everybody's in his house. Somebody's taking over the kitchen. They're taking orders. Somebody's on the phone making long distance phone calls. And he takes that crutch and he just rakes everything off the bar and starts screaming at him to get out. He gets to the back and this fat slob is smoking cigarettes and looks like he's putting them out on the bed while he's watching the Smurfs, and he threatens to beat the shit out of him.
You get out of here, fella. I'm trying to watch the Smurfs.
See the one where Papa Smurf
took a crutch and smashed the shit out of a guy with a red hat. Did you see that one? You want to see that one?
With that, I mean, it's a great
scenes
scene.
the scenes between him and Scully are pretty serious, and I think they're underrated. You know, he's like, "You ever just feel like a loser?" And Scully looks at him and goes, "Yeah." And the silence speaks more than
Yeah.
what they had just said. You know, they just stare at each other, but they're also they're getting drunk.
Scully's not going to let him race his boat. He's not going to let him race his boat in the Brigada. And he goes, "Don't you ever just feel like you peaked in high school?" And Rip Torn looks at him, and like you said, there's a silence, and he goes, "Yeah, I do." I mean, just scenes like that, and we talked about it on the audio podcast. The scene with him and his daughter, where even though they're bonding and they're having all this fun during this music montage of fixing this boat up for the race, him and the daughter over there. And she's like, "What kind of chances do you think we have?" Or something like that. He's like, "Well, what was it? You can't win them all," is what she says, or he says.
And then she comes back with, "But it would be nice to win one, wouldn't it?" And
yeah,
he's like,
he goes,
"One would be nice."
Yeah, that was a great scene between him and her with a one win would be nice. And it tells you a lot about the John Candy character in this movie. All right, Blake, what's your first bad?
Not much to talk about here, Ronnie, but I'm gonna throw our boy John Larroquette in there, and it's only because it's not his fault. I just feel like they wanted to go with a storyline of the wife and kids spending time with Larroquette and his family, kind of teasing a separation or whatever, and they made such a good choice not to do that because John Candy is such a beloved character. Like, we would have turned on the wife and kids. Like, there would have been no reasoning, for that. But I will say this, and I know this is something you've probably never noticed. I was watching a YouTube video earlier about the filming location. Guy brought up something interesting when it shows Joey Lawrence sitting on the bed, and I think it's a scene where he's upset. On the nightstand, it says first place volleyball, Nick Pushes Cove, or whatever the name of that town is. He had a theory that the kid, after being embarrassed by his dad, went out there with John Larroquette's family and won first place in the volleyball tournament, which was supposed to build up tension, because they're going on this guy's boat. They're going to the movies with him. So what do you think about that? But anyway, my bad is this kind of forgotten storyline. The wife and kids are gone a lot, which is why John Candy gets to spend time with Scully, getting his ear pierced, getting drunk, taking sailing lessons, and deciding to fix up the restaurant to put it in the Brigada. But this forgotten storyline of John Larroquette trying to bust up this family. And then at the end, John Larroquette's there cheering him on. So maybe he's just a really good guy, a really good friend. Maybe he's gay,
You got a son. You got Greg.
Caitlyn Jenner has daughters.
For the first time, we're agreeing on something for the good, bad, and the ugly. My bad. The first one I immediately came up with, and you're going to laugh at me, was Joey Lawrence. I hate him in this movie. I hate that little kid in this movie. He is the most annoying kid. They go by the water when they're driving. "Oh, can we go swimming? Can we go swimming?" I hate this kid. They're in the boat. John Candy runs in and, "Oh, is it your bad knee, Dad?" At the end of it, "I'm not leaving. I hate Joey Lawrence. If I ever met him, I'd tell him I hate him.
They put the daughter, another bad, Ronnie, is they put the daughter in daycare on vacation.
I know. That's crazy.
Daycare / preschool during the day. And like you're staying at a beach house.
That's crazy. That's not want to take care of kids.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the whole summer camp argument you and I had last week.
Get them the hell out of here.
Get them gone.
I settled with John Larroquette, and it seems like a portion of his story was cut out. John Candy hurts his knee in that accident with Richard Crenna, and he's on crutches. So the family goes to the movies without him, and she doesn't have her money, and John Larroquette's there, and he pays, and they watch the movie together. And then they're hanging out on his boat skiing, and they're going around town. And like you said, it feels like something more should have been there. Like Larroquette was there to trying to steal John Candy's wife. But nothing ever came of that, and I agree with you 100%. It's good that they left it the way it did, where it just looks like John Larroquette's a good guy, needed somebody to hang out with, so John Candy couldn't hang out with his wife, so he hung out with them. Because we didn't even talk about John Candy wants to learn to sail. This is before the Brigada. And him and Rip Torn are out there learning to sail every day and getting drunk. That's what they're doing. A great scene with those guys where they've gotten I think the first time they've hung out, and they're super drunk and they're playing darts and they're counting up where each dart is. And Scully has one in the side of his arm. So, and he goes, which one is that? Is that me or you? And it turns out Scully threw that dart accidentally into his own arm. Never fear, Angus is here.
Yeah,
sweet in this movie.
Boss from Seinfeld shows up and gives him the sail, and they're good to go. They get in the race and they're doing well, but then at the turn, they start slowing down. They're just not fast enough, and Scully says, "We're giving her all she's got." Well, then old Scuzz from the basement comes up, and he's eating like fish sticks or something. He's like, "Where'd you get that?" And he's like, "Down in the freezer." He's like, "I told you to throw everything out."
Scully's catch of the day.
Turns out they, got freezers and fridges down there that's weighing them down. So they dump everything into the ocean, which is my favorite part. And then they start hauling ass, and they need a little bit more sail. So John Candy takes his britches off and rolls them up, and they pass Krenna by a mile. Really good moment. Okay, so adding one more to my bad, Ronnie, the abrupt ending.
Abracadabra.
The abrupt ending, and I'm going to contradict myself. I like the way it ends. I like how it's just boom, happy, we're out. But I would have liked to have seen a little more of John Candy. I would have liked to have seen maybe John Candy going up to Krenna and getting to enjoy his victory a little bit.
Yes.
Hugging
his wife, celebrating.
Hugging his wife and kids. Maybe it ends with, a family, a group hug or whatever, and Scully and John Candy shaking hands or something like that. I mean, because, they're friends for life now. Yeah, so I'm going to include the ending. It's not because I don't like the ending. How'd you say it? Abruptness?
Abrupt.
The abruptness?
Abra.
The abracadabra of it.
So you left out the part where Richard Crenna can't find any wind, and John Candy sees this plane like...
Yeah, and it all comes together.
Yeah, he's like, you see that over there? Get us in that line right there,
funnel.
Because it's a funnel gunnel. And he goes, move it over, you crazy Swede. We got a funnel gunnel. And that's how they catch Richard Crenna. And at the end, like you said, he has to use his pants. You hear the guy go, he's flying his pants out.
Jesus, he's got his pants up there out. Is that legal? That's not legal.
I don't know if it's legal, but I love it.
I don't know if it's legal, but I like it.
And like you said, it gets to an abrupt end, but a great end, because nothing's better than doing the National Lampoon's Vacation ending at the end of it when
we get to see the pictures that the wife took.
All right, Blake. Now we move on.
Think about how much money he saved, Ronnie, because he got that place for free.
Moving on to the ugly. I got a feeling we're gonna have the same thing right here. Who's your ugly?
It's gonna be a clean sweep. It's gonna be Scuzz, who works at Scully's restaurant. It's gonna be Scuzz. He works at Scully's restaurant. I forget his name, Orko or something like that. He gives off he gives off pedophile vibes with the little girl. For some reason she's allowed to go down to the bottom of the boat with him and hang out. Orko's so pretty. And
it's not Orko, it's Miko.
Really weird, and he is ugly.
It's not going to be a clean sweep, because my ugly is the fat ass that when he goes, where you guys going? And he burps straight that way like that.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Why are you people going through here? Yeah, perfect.
And he's the one laying in the bed. He's fat. He's disgusting. He's everything that's great with the 80s.
That's a good one.
All right, Blake, that's going to wrap up the good, the bad, and the ugly on Summer Rental 1985. A really great movie. Anything else we left off that you want to talk about?
10 out of 10.
Guys, in the comments, what is your good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to John Candy in Summer Rental? Let us know. Hit the like button. Subscribe. Hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time there's new content or we go live. If you feel like supporting the channel, sign up over on Patreon. For as little as $1, you can help the channel out. It's $1, man. Edit. Help us out. Blake, I don't know if I've got anything else to say.
Ronnie, he's eating breakfast on his way to work in the beginning of the movie, and he busts that egg on the steering wheel, and that shit gets all over him.
It's my fault. I should have told him a hard-boiled egg.